Hello, everybody. I toast to you and all you do. I hope you're having a fantastic day today, wherever you are, wherever it may be. We are here today to talk about the full moon we have coming up. It is a full moon in Scorpio. It is the flower moon. So this is going to be a very passionate, fertile moon, just in its general nature. We have a unique experience in that it is also a lunar eclipse. Unfortunately, here in the United States, we again won't be able to see this lunar eclipse. It will be visible in Australia, India, Antarctica, parts of Africa, the Middle East, Siberia. Like there's a big, that high side. Because this full moon is happening at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so it's like noon here in Colorado. We're not going to see the actual eclipse happening, just like we didn't get to see the solar eclipse happening because they were on the other side of the earth with the timing. That doesn't mean that we don't feel that energy. This is about the angles and not necessarily what we see. It's funny because this to me kind of comes into line with the retrograde. Sometimes you talk to people and they're like, well, retrogrades aren't real. The planet's never moving backwards. And no, it's never moving backwards, although we do see it as it moves through the sky, moving in an opposite direction, which is fun because it really, like with right now, Mercury going retrograde, you can see Mercury and it's moving opposite the sun, or opposite the stars in the sky at night. So that's a fun thing to watch, and it really helps you to pinpoint the planets when they're in, like you can really see the difference between a planet and a star because the stars always move together in that, and planets don't. But I like watching the stars. It's fun. And when you put a telescope out and you're looking at it through a telescope, you can really see the movement of the planets and the stars, because when you're zoomed in close like that, you have to move the telescope to follow the star, to follow the moon even. So it's fun. But these movements are about measurements and angles and the interaction between forces when they're at these certain angles. So even though we can't see the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse happening, the planets are still at that angle at that moment, and so we're still feeling that energy. And so as we have an eclipse, we are having the entire cycle of said solar entity, heavenly body. I don't know what word to put there because sun or moon. But anyways, when we're having these eclipses, we're having the entire cycle of that. So like for this lunar eclipse, it'll be the entire moon cycle, all of the phases of the moon in one evening. So this is an eruptive energy because you have a lot of energy in one moment, like all coming together. This one is going to take over 2 hours, I think, to complete, so it will be a slower moving lunar eclipse for those who can see it. We will all feel that, but it's still within 2 hours we're getting all of the phases of the moon. Sometimes it happens within 10 minutes. The last one didn't take very long. You started to see it, and I think within an hour you saw the whole thing happen. And so when you feel that all in one night, it can be kind of eruptive. Some people say that it can cause a little chaos in your magic. I think that this is more about focus and your intent. And when you have this much energy and this much power in one moment, in one moment, if your intent and your focus and your magic or whatever it is that you're doing under this moment is not accurate, then you are more likely to have some chaotic influences make their way into the situation. I'm not one to ever say I don't recommend doing magic at this time. I've never found a moment where I'm like, nope, not going to do any magic now. I do think that at this time, if you're going to do spell work or you're going to charge a stone or you're going to do something of that nature, make sure that you are focusing that intent. This would be a great time to charge a moonstone. with the energy of the moon. You want the complete energy of the moon in this moonstone, not just the full moon, not just the maiden moon, not just the crone energy. You want the entire fluid energy of the moon to be charged into a moonstone or a clear quartz. This would be a really great time for that. And it would, I think, also maybe some moon water. It would make very potent moon water because you're going to get the entire phase of the moon in one evening and one time. Now I hear in my brain someone asking, well, if the moon is happening during the day, how can I charge the moon under this energy? So the moon is going to carry this energy. You could do it tonight. You could do it last night. You could do it the night after, within this time frame. But the moon right now is holding this energy. If you can see the moon while the eclipse is happening, obviously because you can see it, it reinforces the energy and therefore heightens, intensifies the, not projection of the spell, but it heightens the focus, it heightens so in that it makes it a little more powerful, more potent. But that is only because that's the intent that you're putting on it. I am always reminded of the story from a shaman teaching another shaman, and he always kept down feathers in his pocket. And he was doing a medicine smoke lodge, and he was doing some healing, and this person had a lot of respiratory issues. They had trouble breathing. And so he was doing this work with them, and they started to work it out, and the patient began to cough, and they were working out this phlegm, and they were really getting it out. And as he told him, cough, 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 he pulled the feathers out of his pocket. And as the guy coughed, and he handed him the tissue, and then out of the tissue came the feathers. And so, excuse me, in the patient's, in the client's, in the person's perception, these feathers came out of them. And it solidified in their brain the removing of the thing that needed to be removed. And they felt better. Their cough went away. They began to process it. Your mind is a very, very powerful thing. Very powerful. If you say you're going to survive, then you're going to survive. You hear about these people who are like, I was eaten by a hippopotamus and I survived. Like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. But they told themselves in that moment, I am going to survive. I'm not going to die here. I will survive from this moment. And your brain is that powerful that it will put that forth. So when you see the full moon and you see the solar eclipse happening and you're holding the stone and you're in that moment, you are putting that much more intent into it because you have that belief in that I am watching the solar eclipse. So I'm adding the energy of all the phases of the moon. As opposed when here in the United States, where we're not going to really see the solar eclipse, we're just going to go out under this full moon energy. And in our mind's eye, we can picture the solar eclipse happening, but it's not physically happening in front of our eyeballs. And that makes it a little more challenging to add that extra mind power. So it's a good time to practice your visualization. Sit under the moon, but close your eyes and visualize the lunar eclipse and see the lunar eclipse happening. Maybe right before you go outside to do it, watch the lunar eclipse. I'm sure you'll be able to see it from somewhere where they can see it, and watch what happens so that you can replay that in your mind's eye while you're doing your meditation or while you're doing that work, if you're going to do that work under the full moon. That was a totally random rant tangent that I did not mean to go on. But some good information for you. So, eclipses don't have to be this scary, overwhelming thing. It's just like really exciting energy, especially with spring and it being the flower moon and it being in Scorpio. This is very passionate, deep energy that we're feeling just through this time of year and these moments. And then you're heightening that by getting that full moon phases all in one. Following, we just had that solar eclipse, which is the same thing. You get all of the phases of the sun. I guess that's kind of a weird way to look at it. But you get this rebirthing of the sun's energy. And it really heightens. It has a lot of intent, like a lot of, and we're still feeling that. Remember, you'll feel an eclipse for up to 6 months after and before, but in that time that it's happening. So in this eclipse season that we're having, there are more eclipses coming. I think it's in October. We have more eclipses. There's the next full moon eclipse anyways. Hopefully we'll be able to see that one in the United States. But, so we have more eclipses coming. This is an eclipse season. It's a very exciting time. It is a revolutionary, evolutionary, changing, transforming. You know, Saturn is making a big transition. Pluto is making a big transition. We have a lot of things happening astrologically that are reinforcing this, for lack of better words, spiritual evolution of the people and this moving forward. Many people are feeling it on so many different levels. And so we're feeling this right now. And we talked about it in our other full moon videos, or new moon, all of our, really it's this leading up. And whenever somebody is like, I don't believe in astrology, I don't believe in this or that, I say, well, you can't just look at one aspect. So many people get caught up in like, oh, I'm a Scorpio, and it says that I have to be like this. And my good friend is a Scorpio, and the two of us are not very much alike. And that's a true thing. And everything's on a spectrum. Everything is not just in one. So yes, right now we have this full moon happening in Scorpio, opposing the sun in Taurus, and there is an eclipse. And so it's adding this Scorpio-Taurus passionate, deep, grounded, rooted, foundational energy in our full moon and in this eclipse. But that's not the only thing that's happening. And if we just look at that one, we're like, okay, well, how does that apply? Or just like the Scorpio thing, how does that apply? It's not just one thing. It is a collective of all of these things. If you watch all of the videos for the last couple moon phases, you see this pattern. You see this collective energy showing you this path of like, we are going through this transformational moment. Things are happening. The universe is behind you 100%. It is in support of making this change. It is time to make this change. You have all the things that you need. And now we're at this point with these eclipses where it is a rattling of the foundation in which we stand on. It is shaking the frames of everything that you think that you've put together. And you're like, this is going to work. And then it's going to give it a good shake. And it's going to shake out all of the problems. Which is funny because today in our business, we're doing work for the business, and I'm like, we have this thing, we have to get these things done, da 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 da. And no, that's not what's happening. There was like a good shake up. And no, what we needed to focus on was something else. This is just the way that it has to be. Shaking out the farmer's market. Anyways, so we have a lot of this shaking. We have this like final test before we step through. And if I was a person who liked to look more into the future, I would have already looked at the natal charts for all of the moons of the year, and I would be able to tell you, I can see that this is where we're going. But I'm going to be honest, I don't like to look that far into the future. I'm really trying to plan a new book. See, I've got my Following the Celestial Wheel. But if you look in the side, oh, that picture doesn't do it justice. So there are so many pages that I've had to add because there's not enough space. And so I need to do this for 2024. I just don't like to look that far into the future, but I'm going to do it. And we're going to have this amazing thing put out. But I would be able to tell you what was happening more in the future, but I don't like to look that far in the future. So I just do this a little bit at a time, so that I'm prepared for the energy as it's here. And it's really always ironic to me. Not ironic, it's like a beautiful irony in the trends that you get as we move forward. So right now, we have this, we were talking about this long conjunction before. It's slightly changed now, but we still have this big conjunction. If you look at the natal chart for, you can see we just have this heavy planet clustering. And then we have the moon and Homer over there hanging out in their divine feminine, like basking their bounty upon the land. Like they're really bringing these feminine touches to everything. But this was just so chaotic. Like, isn't that crazy to look at? And you got just, so I did something else to help my brain. So I laid out our planets in a different way. And I have this for you. So as you can see, we have this very long conjunction. All of these planets are conjunct. And here's the moon. We've got this in a position to the moon. We've got some other things happening. We'll go over all of this. But this right here. So we've been talking a lot about this. It has changed. Now we have Uranus and Mercury working their way in there, which if you're familiar with the energy of these two, especially while Mercury is in retrograde, it can, again, be very eruptive. This is an eruptive energy. So we're going to start out with, let's start with Aries because it's the first zodiac sign. And in Aries right now, we have, sorry, I got my papers all discombobulated when I showed you. In Aries, we have Chiron, Eris, and Jupiter still all conjunct. They are just marching right along. They're going to continue to march along for a while. They will slowly drift apart from each other, but because they're relatively close to each other in their orbits, they're going to just keep on trudging along. Eris and Chiron are in the, my brain just said Quaker belt. That's, I don't even know. Actually, like to be real honest, I'm not even sure what that is. Okay, so anyways, they are in the asteroid belt, and then it's Jupiter right there. So they're all together going around. So they're going to stay together for a while, but together they are really bringing in this like expanding fight for healing and justice. This energy is not going to just stand by and let someone sit it out. This is no, we are all standing up. We are all healing. We are all learning from these things that have happened to us. And if we want to get real specific, you know, COVID and all of this stuff that has happened over the last 3 years, if we heal from this and we learn from this and we move forward from this, and then in our whole life, like all of the pain and suffering that you've been through, all of the challenges that you've had, Chiron is like, hey, every challenge is a lesson to learn. Take that lesson and move forward. It is like the ultimate what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of energy. In a very loving, positive, like, you can learn from this. You know, what do we do when we fall down? Well, we get back up again. And then we step forward and we take another step. And Eris comes in here with this like grand justice. It's funny, I have a picture of Boudica on my wall and she's in the like, and so it's the same thing. It's just this great, like, no, we are going to do what's right. We have learned from our mistakes. We are going to do what's right. And Jupiter just pushes that energy forth and expands it and is like, yep, this is what's happening. I'm going to do this in a positive way, very encouraging, and I'm going to push forth this healing, divine justice. Now, in Taurus, right next door, still conjunct, we have the North Node in retrograde, Mercury in retrograde, the Sun, and Uranus. So this can be a very disruptive conjunction. Just having the North Node in retrograde with Mercury right there in retrograde conjunction, like this moving backwards, this is what I was talking about, this like shaking of your foundation before you move forward. It's really making you question, not making you question, but really questioning your beliefs, your self-talk, your like, what am I going to do now? And calling out the lies especially that we tell to ourselves. Sometimes you have yourself believing something so much so that it is just unfathomable this cannot be true. And it is this time that that foundation is being shaken and is being put in your face, and you are being questioned. All of your doubts, your insecurities, all of that stuff is bubbling up to the surface, and you're going to work it out. If you're insecure about something, why are you insecure about it? What are you going to do about that? Is this something you need to move forward from? Are you healing from this? Are you learning from this? No, just let it go. Start singing that Frozen song. Let it go. Oh, no, I'm not going to sing. Anyways. So then we have this conjunction to the sun. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the Mercury thing. I forgot to say something. This is a reminder that we have to step out of the box that we've put ourselves into. We create a world where we think this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is where I need to be. And this retrograde conjunction is really like shaking that box. And it's like, get out of this box that you think that you need to be in. Step out of this. Put your wisdom to good use. And step forward, taking action like the way that you know you need to take it. And stop lying to yourself, stop pretending, stop faking it, stop doing those things. Just go, do, because you have this, you know. And the Uranus with the Sun conjunction is bringing in this like rebellious shaking also. It is reminding you to seek new ways to do things. It's telling you don't have to walk the same path. You don't have to walk the path that your neighbor walks. You don't have to walk the path that somebody else is putting on you or that you think that they think you should walk. Let go of that. You don't have to do something because you think somebody else wants you to do it. Like we've talked about a lot. Step into your own authority. Do what you know is right. And as long as you're stepping forward with good integrity and kindness, you can't make a false step. Like you might come to people who are like, I don't like what you're saying to me. But if you're coming from a place of love and good intentions and you're just like, this is what it is, and I am willing to listen and all of that, like that's all you can do. That's all you can put forth. You have to walk forward with kindness and confidence, knowing your values. And this conjunction is like, hey, all together now, the whole 7 of them are just like, step out and do this. You don't have to continue to repeat the same cycle. You don't have to continue to do these same things. Now is the time for you to heal, for you to see what you need to see, and for you to move forward and really embrace your own authority, your own power. This solar eclipse is a lot about power also, being in Scorpio, and Scorpio is your deep, passionate power. That is your internal, just that power that comes from deep within, that passion that motivates you to do all of the things that you do. And this full moon brings that out into the surface with this beautiful spring energy. And then with all of these you can do this, like step into your authority, know who it is that you are, and move forward. Like even though we have these planets in retrograde and we have this big conjunction that's really kind of shaking things up, it's not as scary as it sounds. This is a forceful reminder not to overthink things, not to compare yourself to social norms. Now is the time to step out and step into your own personal authority and to walk this new path with confidence. Like 100%. That is what you need to do. That's a lot. It's just a really powerful moment. I knew I should have filled that up before I started. Okay, so let's talk about some of these other transits that are happening. Oh, hold that thought.